Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Obviously, you can see the green screen behind me. That's literally the view that's in front of me as I sit here in the press box at Soldier Field. It was an embarrassing football game today, period. Other than A.J. Cole, I think it's fair to say the entire team should walk out of here embarrassed, from the owner to the management, to the coaches, to the players. It was an absolute embarrassment of a game for the Las Vegas Raiders. You were playing a wounded Chicago Bear team, lots of injuries, QB1 out. You had a guy who never even took a snap at the Division II level with his first start as a rookie. And you got your butt handed to you from almost the beginning. Nobody played well. And you can't point a finger at one or two people. It was a colossal team failure. You've heard about team wins. This was a colossal team failure. No other way to process this. Now we're going to get into it, talk about it. I told you this morning in my podcast, their reasoning for going with Aiden O'Connell. Going with Brian Hoyer, not going with Aiden O'Connell. Okay, that was their decision. I said this morning, doesn't matter what I think, it's what they think. I think you have to make the decision because you're obviously trying to win. I want to play whoever I think gives me that best chance. Josh McDaniels thought it was Brian Hoyer. Now, let's not make a mistake. The Raiders didn't lose today because of Brian, just like they didn't lose for any one player. They lost because of everybody. It was embarrassing. Just check out my post-game article. Embarrassing. emBEARassing. Embarrassing. From every point. Now, there are a couple things I said to Josh McDaniels after the game. You are 24 games into your career with the Raiders. This team is worse than the one you inherited, and it is. It's not even close. This was the worst loss of his career. Now, some of you are going to go back, point to the Jeff Saturday loss at against Indianapolis, the New Orleans loss. Those were terrible losses. But here, let's put it in context. That was his first year when they could say, well, we don't have our guys. You got your guys now. That's what made it even worse. And you're 24 games in. If I was asked, can you describe the Las Vegas Raiders offensive style? I would call it discombobulation. It's just bad at every phase. Now, years ago, Bobby Bowden, the terrific national championship Hall of Fame coach of Florida State, I was interviewing him and got to spend quite a bit of an afternoon with him. And we were talking about teams and in several subjects, but one of the subjects we talked about was when he said if a player makes a mistake, but the right play was called, and everybody else on the team makes on the field, the other 10 guys all make the right decision, then I know it was on the player. He says, but if I consistently have more than one player making the mistake, he goes, I know it's on coaching. This is on coaching. Nick Saban says, and I know you're tired of hearing it. I don't care because it's apropos. If you are allowing it, you're coaching it. And we are seeing the same problems week after week after week. Same problems, different quarterbacks. It is what it is. Now, they expect Jimmy to be healthy next week, and he will start. But has anybody seen anything from Jimmy Garoppolo that gives you any hope? Bueller. So where do the Raiders go from here? Okay, completely embarrassing. And you can go watch the video to see Josh's answer. I know some people were very angry at me. Listen, I'm a professional. I'm not going to go at him, cussing at him. First of all, I respect him. I'm not going to do that. Second of all, I represent a corporation. That's not respectable. But you ask tough questions. You can ask tough questions and not be a jackass. It's not personal. It's not. I don't dislike the man, but you got to ask him tough questions. There's no way getting around this. You can't get away from this. 24 games in, and you're worse. Your owner decided to blow up a playoff team, get rid of the general manager, get rid of the coach and staff, and bring you in. And you're worse 24 games later. Now, I live in Realville, and I know Raider Nation's angry. I don't blame you. I mean, let's be honest. I'm paid to be here. You folks pay to buy the merchandise and you fly out and come to the games. And man, a lot of Raiders here today. I get it. I understand. I don't blame you one bit. Your organization sells you just win, and you're not winning. Your organization sells you commitment to excellence, and this is a commitment to discombobulation. It's embarrassing. And by the way, before you send me any tweets or hate mail for calling it embarrassing, that's what Max Crosby called it. Go watch the video. Embarrassing. So what happens? So I asked Josh, hey, because the process. And you've seen him when I've asked him after wins. No, we don't want to get too high. We go for the standard and stick to the process, which is fair. I like that style. The problem is Einstein says the definition of stupidity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. You are 7 games into your second year, 24 games in, and your process isn't working. So I said, do you change it? Do you stay the line or scrap it? And for everyone thinking, oh, they're going to get mad at you, Hondo. No, they're not. He even said, that's a fair question because I'm the guy in charge. And it isn't personal. I'm frustrated because I'm frustrated for you guys. I'm super frustrated for you. Raider Nation, there was a guy last year that held up a sign. By the way, if anybody knows that guy, please have him get a hold of me. You guys got my email. Have him get a hold of me. I'd like to do an interview with him. But you guys do deserve better. You absolutely do. And you want to know what's frustrating? Is there are so many good people in this organization. Almost all the players are great people. There's a couple I don't like, but that's just normal. The management, the security, janitors. I mean, this is a total organization. I've been around a long time. Some of the finest people I've ever worked with. They all deserve better. They're working hard. It's not working. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. It's not working. And so what's next? Well, do you just keep doing what you're doing? That's an option. I don't like that option, but it's an option. Do you scrap it? No, I don't think you scrap the whole thing. Or do you alter it? Yes, I think you have to alter it. I mean, these are the quarterbacks you wanted. You wanted Jimmy because you gave him a huge deal. If you would have given him a 1-year prove it deal, I could say maybe, yeah, you didn't want him. You married him. For this year and next, you married. And if you get out, that prenuptial agreement costs millions of more dead space on the cap. So you're married to Jimmy. You brought in Brian to be that stopgap guy to teach. And then you pick Aiden. These are your guys. All 3 have struggled. You going to blame the quarterback? You going to blame the quarterback? My father once said to me, son, if you're mad at somebody, it's probably their fault. But if you're mad at a lot of people, it's probably yours. And remember what Bobby Bowden said. You got, again, you're looking backwards, but I'm looking forward. You got a whole field littered with mammoth mistakes. Your team continually makes execution errors, blunders. Okay. You got to take the emphasis off of players now because it's coaching. Oh, Hondo, you're not being fair. I'm being 100% fair. This is all on coaching. Now, Josh can't go out and fire all of his staff, nor do I think he needs to. I think he's got some really good coaches on his staff. Do I think he has a couple of weak ones? Yeah, I do. But what's he going to do? What is he going to do? Now, in fairness, they're coming off a 2-game win streak against 2 very bad teams, of which this one probably isn't as bad as, well, not probably. I don't think that this one was as bad as New England, but I do think they're pretty even with Green Bay. In fact, I would probably make an argument Green Bay's better, and you lost because the Raiders aren't good enough to beat the other team and themselves. They're not good enough when that other team isn't beating themselves. You saw Green Bay made some big mistakes. You saw New England make some mistakes. The Bears didn't. The Bears were better coached. They played better. They looked better. The Raiders were outcoached, outplayed, out-toughed. And Max was 100% correct. Embarrassing. Now, I think you give them the next week because they're going on the road to Detroit. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think they lose. I've said it all year. I've seen nothing, and especially after the way Detroit played today, because they're very well coached. And they have the ability to put their foot on somebody's throat. They're going to be out for blood back at Ford Field. I want to see the adjustments that get made. I have a couple of very tough questions that I want to ask. But again, you have to understand, my job is I have to be fair. Someone said to me one time, I wish you'd ask, and they gave me this whole question full of FUs and everything else. Okay, you don't go to your doctor and they say, hey, you MF and fat butt, you need to lose weight, you piece of crap fatty. It'd be hilarious if they did. That's not professional. Second of all, I don't dislike any one of those coaches. That's not true. I don't dislike most of them, especially Josh. I don't dislike him. But I have to ask the question. It's fair, and he doesn't care. There's a couple of really tough ones coming. You know what? If they go to Detroit and upset them, okay, then they're right back to where we thought they should be. I don't think that's coming. And after that, I think there are some questions about the franchise moving forward that have to be asked. But this team now that was a punch. I want to tell you a couple things. I talked to Brian Hoyer after the game and Max Crosby. You can watch the video. I told you guys it was a great week in practice and the locker room was light. And in all of my decades of doing this, I've never been in a locker room like that lost. Ever. First time in my career. And I asked them about it. And both of them, you can go watch it, but both of them are like, doesn't matter what happens during the week. Just happens on the field. I don't think they were overconfident. I don't think they were arrogant. I just think this team has some real problems. Now, again, I'm not going to get into pointing out players because this sits right on Josh's desk and his staff. If I'm Josh McDaniels, I'm telling all the staff on the plane, and they're on their way to the airport right now. We're meeting when we get back there, and you might as well tell your families you may not come home till Monday night. And if I'm Josh, I'm sitting in my office looking at his staff saying, you failed and I failed. Forget the players. Everything rises and falls with leadership. We failed in this room. And every one of you is coaching for your job. And I want a plan. You're not leaving here till you bring me a plan that I read and think is acceptable for what are you going to do to change the play where you coach. Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. If this would have been the Detroit game or a Chief game or a Miami game, I would have said, man, it's ugly, but they're better. You just got your ass handed to you by the Chicago Bears with a quarterback that had never taken a snap in Division I football, let alone the National Football League. And look how this game looked. What in the name of blue blazes do you think's going to happen next week at Ford Field against the Honolulu Blue and Silver? What's going to happen down in Miami against the Dolphins? What's going to happen with 2 games against Kansas City? Come on now. Just keeping it in the words of the kids, 100. So what's the complete recap? It was a complete disaster. Your eyes didn't lie to you. Raider Nation's among the smartest of fans. You guys know football. I mean, 1 deep shot. 1. But there were a lot of errors. There were errors on the offensive line. There were errors on throws. There were errors on routes. There were errors on running lanes. There were errors on blocking. There were errors on tackling. Oh my God, was there errors on tackling, errors in coverage. You watch some guys that just wouldn't even put up an effort. Those people need to be benched. Because if you got 1 or 2 guys that are lacking in effort, I don't care how much they get paid, and you don't bench them, then everybody else says, okay, I'm okay, doesn't matter. Now I'm gonna tell you, a lot of angry people. It does matter. And again, I'm putting it on coaching. This was a colossal failure. They are 24 games in to the Josh McDaniels era, and the team is worse. And that's hard for me to swallow, because I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at, there are a lot of positions, not all, where they're better. They got more talent. And as bad as this team is playing right now with better talent, that tells you how good of a job Rich Bisaccia did. And I'm not saying fire Josh, go get Rich. I'm not saying that, because I'm going to tell you right now. Do I think it's 100% that Josh is back next year? I think it's more than 95%. He's not going anywhere. I think for him to be fired, it would have to be something. And I'm not calling for that, by the way. I think it would have to be something that's not even close to the radar. However, having covered the Raiders for 4 years, I've seen a lot of things happen that weren't on the radar. But he's coming back. And I understand fans are mad. I understand people ask me, will you retweet fire Josh McDaniels stuff or petitions? No, I'm not doing that. I'm a professional. I don't get involved in that. I'm not a fan. My job is to simply give you the status of the team, assess the team, and tell you what's going on. And the point is, this is coaching. And it's happening everywhere. So I think Josh absolutely has to look at every area. If we see this happen in Detroit, then I think there are some very difficult questions that I'm going to have to ask. And I'm fine with that. I think, again, he's not going to go do firings or anything like that. He could probably do some reassignments of some stuff. In fact, if I were him, I would, but I would have gotten rid of 1 for sure, maybe 2 guys before the season that he chose to keep. So he's married to him. But coaching, and the Raiders had better talent, but they lost to a better team. Now, if you've never played in sports, you may not understand that. There are lots of teams that have talent that lose to better teams. Let that sink in for a minute. They lost to a better team tonight with less talent. That's on coaching. So, complete recap, it was a discombobulated disaster. The Raiders fall to 3-4. This is the 24th game of the Josh McDaniels regime, and the team looks worse than what he inherited. This is a team with a ton of blemishes. Now, I told this story weeks ago, but it's very pertinent right now. I had a close person in my life who had a relative that was dying of stage 4 cancer. Somebody said, you shouldn't use cancer as an example. I was using a real example who went into the hospital for a minor illness. And this person's family was going crazy. Oh, this minor. And the doctor says, wait. Don't worry about the minor illness. It's the cancer that's going to destroy them. Now, I am not equating the death of someone to cancer to football because we know it doesn't even respond. It's not in the same league of importance. Hear me. But what I am saying is I can go nitpick players and mistakes and they would all be right. And let me tell you, it would be a list. But when it's all over the field with your guys, that's on the coaching. If it was one player, if they were a quarterback away, if they were a right tackle, or if they were a middle linebacker, which I think Splain's fine, but you get my point. Then I think you pick that out. This is on coaching. You got $102 million offense. And you would have thought Dick Butkus was out here or Mike Singletary from the 85 Bears. Give me a break. $102 million offense. Embarrassing. Not my words. Max Crosby. Raider Nation, I love you. And I greatly appreciate you. I know you're hurting because you guys care. I've had articles I've written where you've seen general managers say people would love to have Raider fan because you care. You're not out sipping mimosas now, having little sliders with lobster and some Grey Poupon Hall saying, well, we tried. No, you guys are all mad. Every one of you, boy, I can see it. You're yelling at me because you're mad. I get it. I get it. And the reality is, this is what they're paid for, to build something long term. Doesn't matter what I think, doesn't matter what you think. Matters what Mark Davis thinks, and he's going to trust them and give them time to do something. That's his prerogative. It doesn't make him a bad guy. It's just the reality of the situation. You may disagree. That's your prerogative. But they're going to go back to work. And now I think the onus is on the staff. You got to fix this, guys. We got to fix it. Because we just can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. Again, now, there's 13 weeks left. 13 weeks left. Oh, that's not true. 10 weeks left, excuse me. 10 weeks left. Fix it. Fix it. Go make it happen. You got the talent. These are the guys you wanted. Go make it happen. I'm Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and follow us. We appreciate all of you. We'll see you back here tomorrow.